Welcome back. Thanks very much for staying on with us. You're watching the latest coming in from around the world here on Beyond World is One. I'm Molly Gambhir. A quick look first at the top stories making headlines. Israel is preparing to move 2 additional divisions towards the Israel-controlled Golan Heights. According to reports, as tensions escalate in Syria South, IDF says it is preparing for several days of fighting, even amid word of indirect talks between Israel and Syria. Moment of Israeli explosions in the background while a reporter is on air in Damascus. Large plumes of smoke seen rising from the buildings.
Fortunately, we get to make a change in the next, 8 months or so. And we'll pick somebody that's good, and we'll pick somebody. I just want a fair job.
US President Donald Trump turns up the heat against the Fed chair, rejects media reports of firing him, though he talks of a change soon. US President Trump says negotiations between India and the US for a much-anticipated interim trade deal are on track and it could be sealed soon. Talks of greater access for American companies to the Indian market, in line with the trade pact between the US and Indonesia. Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei says Iran is ready to respond to any renewed military attack, adding that Tehran was capable of delivering a bigger blow to adversaries than the one it gave during the 12-day Iran-Israel war.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu urges Druze population to not try and enter Syria after dozens crossed the armistice line in both directions following deadly fighting in the Druze heartland. Israel stepped up its offensive against Syrian forces in the country's southern Sweda province. Prime Minister Netanyahu says that his country is committed to protecting Druze residents. Death toll in clashes passes 250. Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Khamenei says Israel's attack during last month's 12-day war were intended to weaken the Islamic Republic's system and spark unrest to topple it. Terms targeting of figures in sensitive centers, part of a calculated plan. Istanbul Mayor Ekrem İmamoğlu, President Erdogan's rival, given a 20-month jail term for insulting the city's public prosecutor. The case is one of many lined up against İmamoğlu. His arrest in March triggered Turkey's worst street protests in more than a decade. Indonesia confirms agreement with the U.S. on tariffs, with President Trump agreeing to lower tariffs on Indonesian goods to 19%, below the slated 32%. President Subianto says the deal protects millions of workers from mass layoffs. Wildfires rage in northwestern Turkey, burning down forest land and damaging nearby residential areas. Firefighters were working from the ground and air to contain the flames as the blaze entered its second day on Wednesday.
A warning tonight about a flesh-eating bacteria called Vulnificus. And so far this year, the Florida Department of Health says 4 people have died in our state from this.
West 2's Christina Watkins talked with an infectious disease doctor who says heavy rain and storms could lead to even more cases.
There's a potential danger lurking in the water, and no, we're not talking about alligators or sharks, at least not this time. It's a flesh-eating bacteria.
There's a lot of bacteria that just live in different areas, even in like waterborne spots. So there's freshwater, saltwater, and this bacteria called Vibrio vulnificus likes saltwater.
The bacteria led to 4 deaths so far in Florida, in Hillsborough, Bay, Broward, and St. Johns counties. That's according to the State Department of Health. Overall, 11 infections have been reported statewide. Orlando Health infectious disease specialist Dr. Daniel Egan says cases typically go up this time of year, especially during hurricane season.
So that's actually what we saw last year when we were talking about like Hurricane Milton and all the flooding and debris. That's where we actually saw an uptick of cases after that time in October, mainly because of that. Is like that brings all the salt water more inland from all these storms.
Though experts say it is rare for this bacteria to lead to deaths, Dr. Egan stressed the importance of knowing the signs and the symptoms. He says the main way it can show up is through an open cut or wound.
Vibrio in particular, it likes to move very fast. So if all of a sudden things look good and then there's some sudden redness that's just spreading very quickly over a day to a few hours, that's one when you want to go to the emergency room quickly for it, because it can be that fast too.
Christina Watkins, WESH 2 News.
Now, the State Department of Health shows 82 infections and 19 deaths last year. The state says numbers went up after Hurricane Helene.
Job cuts are now official at the Department of Health and Human Services. After months of legal back and forth, HHS sent an email on Monday telling employees they were out, a week after the Supreme Court cleared the way for layoffs. The notice obtained by CNN read, quote, "You are hereby notified that you are officially separated from HHS at the close of business on July 14th, 2025. This all started back in March when HHS announced a reorganization plan under President Trump's executive order to shrink the federal workforce. The plan is meant to save nearly $2 billion a year by cutting about 10,000 jobs. When you include early retirements and voluntary exits, HHS is shrinking from 82,000 employees down to 62,000. On April 1st, about 10,000 employees got termination notices scheduled to leave by June 2nd. Another 10,000 took incentive packages to leave voluntarily. But in May, a federal judge temporarily blocked the cuts until the Supreme Court overturned that decision earlier this month, allowing the layoffs to move forward. Although one legal battle ended, more are still on the docket. Another injunction issued on July 1st temporarily protects some employees at HHS agencies, including the FDA and CDC. Plus, a class action lawsuit claims HHS used inaccurate data to decide who got laid off. By law, federal workers can sue if agencies base personnel actions on bad information. That's part of the Privacy Act of 1974, which gives employees the right to see and correct their records.
Americans' unpaid medical bills will remain on their credit reports. This comes after a federal judge canceled a Consumer Financial Protection Bureau rule that would have removed medical debt from those reports. Texas U.S. District Judge found the rule exceeds the Bureau's authority under the Fair Credit Reporting Act. It would have removed nearly $50 billion in medical bills from the credit reports of about 15 million people.
Back to our Emily Wilkins on Capitol Hill. Emily.
Hey, John. Well, lawmakers were hoping to be able to regroup, find a new way forward and move ahead this evening. But now they are all being told to head home as a group of hardline lawmakers remain at an impasse with President Trump about how they should be moving these bills through. Again, a lot of these hard members, they really want to make sure that they are banning that central bank digital securities, national bank digital currency. They have a lot of concerns about the national security aspects, about personal safety aspects. But at this point, Trump, as so far has said that he still wants that stablecoin bill to come to the House this week, which means that all three need to go separately instead of being combined. Republican leadership meeting with a number of lawmakers as well as senators this afternoon, but it seems that negotiations are going to have to go into tomorrow. Remember, the crypto industry, they were really banking on getting these bills done, and now it seems like everything is up in the air until they can find a path forward.
Several people were killed and several others were wounded by armed gangs that targeted villages in north-central Nigeria. The latest attack occurred in the Jebu Rahos settlement in Riom in Nigeria's Plateau State, an area that is known for clashes between farmers and herders over land and natural resources. The local residents say that the attackers were armed with guns and machetes and pointed fingers at the herdsmen for their attacks. However, the Mieti Allah Cattle Breeders Association of Nigeria has denied any involvement in the incident. Now, according to reports, violence has in fact intensified in the rural areas of northwest and central Nigeria. Attacks across Plateau and neighboring Benue State have left more than 150 people dead in the month of April alone. Researchers say that much of the violence occurs in areas with little police or government presence, giving criminals a sense of impunity as the killings go unabated. And our correspondent Louisa Olani has sent us this report from Lagos in Nigeria. Listen in.
Sorrows, tears and blood was what was left in Tahos community in Riom local government area of Plateau State when gunmen attacked, killing dozens of people and injuring many on Monday, including a 3-year-old girl and 9 family members related to a local pastor burned alive in their home. Overnight targets like this, when people are asleep, seems to be frequent lately in attacks in northern Nigeria. Now, Monday's incident is the latest in a series of deadly clashes in Nigeria's north-central region, where tensions between farmers, herders and armed bandits have fueled ongoing violence. Some community leaders have pointed fingers at members of the Fulani ethnic group. Security forces arrived after the attack, but locals say the response was too late to prevent the tragedy. The chairman of Riom local government area, Bature, has conveyed the government's condolence and called for calm while security operatives swing into action. From Lagos, Nigeria, Louisa Olani, WION, World is One.
My Druze brothers, citizens of Israel, the situation in Sueda in southern Syria is very serious. The IDF is operating, the Air Force is operating, other forces are operating. We are acting to save our Druze brothers and to eliminate the regime's gangs. And now I have one request for you. You are citizens of Israel. Do not cross the border. You are endangering your lives. You could be killed, you could be kidnapped, and you are harming the IDF's efforts. Therefore, I ask you, return to your homes and let the IDF carry out its mission.
We have breaking news coming in. The Israeli army launched a new strike next to Syrian presidential palace. The Israeli strikes also targeted places near the Syrian army and defense ministry headquarters. The strikes came after Israel's warning the Islamist-led government to leave the Druze minorities alone. In its Sueda heartland, where sectarian clashes have reportedly killed nearly 250 people, Israeli Defense Minister Katz called on Damascus to leave the Druze in Sueda alone. The U.S. envoy for Syria calls on all parties to, quote, step back after deadly clashes, while the Turkish Foreign Ministry says that Israeli strikes on Syria's Damascus are an attempt to sabotage Syrian attempts to establish peace and security. Now, this is a developing story, and we will continue to track the story and, of course, bring you all the latest here on WION. We have breaking news coming in. The Israeli army launched new strikes next to Syrian presidential palace. The Israeli strikes also targeted places near the Syrian army and defense ministry headquarters. Again, this is breaking news that we're just getting of the Israeli army launching new strikes next to Syrian presidential palace. This is in the capital, Damascus. The strikes came after Israel's warning to the Islamist-led government to leave the Druze minority alone in its Sueda heartland, where sectarian clashes have reportedly killed nearly 250 people. The Israeli defense minister has called on Damascus to leave the Druze in Sueda alone. U.S. envoy for Syria calls on all parties to step back after these deadly clashes, while the Turkish Foreign Ministry says that Israeli strikes on Syria's Damascus are attempts to sabotage Syrian attempts to establish peace and security. Now, this is a developing story, and of course, we will continue to track the story with all the latest. And as we get more information, we're going to bring it straight to you on Leah.
You previously called for severe limits to population growth in Canada. Can you clarify what you mean by that?
So, first of all, I'll tell you what I don't mean, which is natural population growth. That is almost non-existent in Canada. We have roughly the same number of people who die as who are born. So all of our population growth, in fact, in the last quarter, I think there were more deaths than births. So what I am referring to is migration, net migration. We have millions of people whose permits will expire over the next couple of years, and many of them will leave. We need to ensure that more leave than come in over the next couple of years while we catch up. Well, housing, healthcare, and jobs can catch up. We've had population growth of roughly 1 million a year under the Liberals, while we barely build 200,000 homes. Our job market is stalled, and yet we're adding more people to the workforce. Our young people are facing generational highs in unemployment because the multinational corporations are giving jobs to low-wage, temporary foreign workers, and that ultimately leave our young people without opportunities. Our country is divided, and we're not able to integrate people at this pace. So in order to fix the problem, we've got to we need to put very hard caps on immigration levels. We need more people leaving than coming for the next couple of years. And so our country can actually catch up. Our immigration policy should invite the right people in the right numbers in a way that puts Canada and Canadians first.
Today, the Pentagon announced that it is withdrawing 2,000 National Guard troops from Los Angeles. The troops were sent to LA last month to help law enforcement deal with demonstrations over immigration raids. Some of those protests turned violent. The Guard deployment happened over the objections of city leaders and California Governor Gavin Newsom. 2,000 Guard members and 700 Marines are still on duty.
The Trump administration is moving to block unauthorized migrants from being released on bond. That's according to a new ICE policy memo. The directive would make migrants who entered the U.S. illegally and in ICE detainment ineligible for bond hearings, keeping them in custody for the duration of their deportation cases. First obtained by the Washington Post, an internal memo reportedly issued by acting ICE Director Todd Lyons orders ICE officers to hold migrants who entered the country illegally throughout the duration of their deportation court proceedings, rather than allowing migrants to be released back into the country on bond. The move would remove powers of immigration judges who typically have the authority to release migrants from detention on a bond if they aren't deemed a threat or flight risk. Immigration law requires migrants in the country illegally to be detained throughout their court proceedings. But with limited beds and holding spaces in ICE jails, the U.S. government allowed migrants to bond out, reportedly for the past several decades. But the Trump administration is looking to expand capacity in ICE detention facilities in order to better hold these migrants, rather than just releasing them. With nearly $45 billion approved by Congress under Trump's tax and spending package, dubbed the Big Beautiful Bill, ICE plans to expand its detention capacity to 100,000 beds, up from 40,000 during the Biden administration. According to some trackers, there's roughly 58,000 migrants currently in ICE detention, as the Trump administration is looking to further ramp up deportations. The memo was reportedly sent out last week, and since then, the American Immigration Lawyers Association said migrants were being denied bond hearings in more than a dozen immigration courts. The DOJ oversees immigration courts. Immigration advocacy groups believe the policy will face legal challenges.
U.S. immigration authorities are allegedly asking landlords to give them private information about their tenants, the Associated Press reports. The federal agency is requesting information, including rental contracts, rental applications, forwarding addresses, identification cards, and possibly other personal documents, according to a real estate lawyer who spoke to the AP. Eric Tizink claims ICE has reportedly contacted owners of apartment complexes demanding information on their tenants, including work history, marital status, family relationships, and other names on leases. Tizink told the AP some of his clients have received information enforcement subpoenas from immigration authorities. He says they are signed by immigration officers. They are not signed by a judge. Tizink determined that the landlords don't have to comply with the ICE enforcement subpoenas because he says it's just an officer making a request. An ICE enforcement subpoena is a legal document issued by ICE and compels a person or organization to provide testimony, documents, records, or other evidence related to an ICE investigation or enforcement action. According to the National Immigration Law Center, an immigration subpoena is not enforceable on its own unless a court orders you to comply with it. You may refuse to comply with the subpoena. Tricia McLaughlin, Homeland Security spokesperson, provided a statement to the AP, quote, "We are not going to comment on law enforcement's tactics surrounding ongoing investigations. However, it is false to say that subpoenas from ICE can simply be ignored. ICE is authorized to obtain records or testimony through specific administrative subpoena authorities. Failure to comply with an ICE-issued administrative subpoena may result in serious legal penalties. The media needs to stop spreading these lies," end quote.
The products that are manufactured here in China are unimaginable, really. And the amount of technology and automation that makes that possible. And so we are part of the world supply chain, and we have incredibly complicated supply chains. And we depend on technology providers all over the world, every single corners of the world. It takes 200 different technology companies, 200, to build one of our AI computers. Unimaginable complexity. It is not possible without a sophisticated supply chain. And so that's why I'm here, to celebrate the miracle of the supply chain in the China supply chain. Planes can fly higher than human. I have no. The China market is so large and it's so dynamic. AI is moving very fast in China. So many AI startups, all of the cloud service providers, Alibaba is doing, QN is doing so well, Tencent is doing so well. Of course, my good friends at Xiaomi, they're doing so well. AI is being applied to everything from consumer applications, internet shopping, grocery delivery, to, of course, self-driving cars and, all these incredible applications. And so I'm very happy to see the AI development here in China.
New York and New Jersey are bearing the brunt of severe flooding that has wreaked havoc on the U.S. East Coast. At least 2 people have lost their lives. A state of emergency is in place. Transportation systems in the tri-state area struggling to cope. Here's a detailed report on the deluge that brought America's Northeast to a standstill.
Severe flooding has turned streets into rivers across New Jersey and New York. In Gutenberg, New Jersey, a bus passenger captured this dramatic footage as rushing water poured into a public bus. Cars struggled to navigate flooded streets inundated by the heavy rainfall. Across the Hudson, New York City faced a similar onslaught. Floodwater surged into subway stations, including street platforms, where passengers watched from inside a train car.
When it rains here in New York, it sucks. I don't know what is going on, the drainage. I mean, look at this. God forbid if someone slips and falls in this, you'd have to amputate your whole skin. It's horrible. Whenever it rains, it's bad.
Relentless rain has shut down several stretches of the subway system, causing massive delays. The roads haven't fared much better. In Yonkers, the Bronx River Parkway was closed after floodwaters filled low-lying sections. Flash flood warnings have been in place from earlier this week. A flood watch covers much of the tri-state area. Airports, highways and the railways have all been hit hard by the unexpected downpour. The worst of the storm appears to have moved on. Cleanup operations are set to get underway. As waters recede, the full scale of damage is being assessed. Officials continue to monitor conditions. Residents have been urged to stay alert. According to the National Weather Service forecasters, the weather system has the potential to develop into a tropical depression as it moves into the northeastern and northern Gulf. Experts say the drivers of the recent extreme rainfall include tropical storm remnants and significant amounts of atmospheric moisture pulsing over large parts of the country.
Iceland, the land of ice and fire, is spewing glowing hot lava after a volcano erupted on the Reykjanes Peninsula in the southwest, marking the 12th eruption since the year 2021. These are the visuals of glowing hot yellow and orange lava spewing out of a fissure in the ground. And according to reports, the fissure is approximately 700 to 1,000 meters in length. According to Iceland's public broadcaster RUV, residents have been evacuated from the nearby town of Grindavik, including a luxury geothermal spa. Further flights at Keflavik Airport in the capital Reykjavik have not been affected so far. Volcanoes on the Reykjanes Peninsula had not erupted for 8 centuries, but in March of 2021, a period of heightened seismic activities began. Volcanologists have warned in recent years that volcanic activity in the region had entered a new era. When the first volcanic eruption hit the area in late 2023, most of Grindavik's 4,000 residents were evacuated. Since then, almost all of the houses have been sold to the state, and most residents have already left. Iceland is home to 33 active volcano systems, which is more than any other European country. It is located on the Mid-Atlantic Ridge, a fault line in the ocean floor that separates the Eurasian and North American tectonic plates and causes earthquakes and eruptions alike.
Astronomers have discovered seeds of rocky planets forming in the gas around a baby sun-like star, providing a peek into the start of our own solar system.
The thing that we've discovered is this T=0 moment, or the first moment where the building blocks that will go on to form terrestrial planets like the Earth, or maybe even the cores of Jupiter-like planets.
The observations offer a glimpse into the inner workings of an emerging planetary system.
So this is the first opportunity we have to look at what we think was a really critical stage of evolution in our own solar system's history. But this is kind of what we've been searching for a while.
NASA's Webb Space Telescope and the European Southern Observatory teamed up to unveil these early nuggets of planetary formation. In a cosmic first, scientists stared deep into the gas disk around the baby star and detected solid specks condensing signs of early planet formation. Scientists said that while research has looked at other gas disks with potential planet wannabes, there's been no specific evidence for the start of planet formation until now.
And this is one part of it, like to contribute to the bigger picture and trying to understand, are there Earth-like planets out there, or are we like so special that we might not expect it to occur very often?
Astronomers can look for similarities and determine which processes might be crucial to forming Earth-like worlds.
Tornado aquí en la autovía de Cartagena.